Good morning. Good morning, good people. Today is Friday, the end of another week. Wow. What can I say? There's only one thing. Let there be light. Let there be light. There we go. So yeah, today is Friday, the 19th of September, 2025. The month is almost over. Wow. Next Friday, family is flying into Lost Wages for daughter Lucy's wedding shower, or not wedding shower, her giving a kid shower. So cool that, but today is Friday. One more day to make something happen. We had a good day yesterday and plan to have a better day today. Cool. Let's see what else we got. Oh yeah, okay. Why are we here? Who are we? Why are we here? So this is the Department of Career Services, where our goal is to help our students and other interested people on their journey through this life, or the adventure of this life. You choose how you want to look at it. So it's not for people who are nihilists. It's not really designed for people who are already saved, who know that the instant of their death, they're already going to be in heaven. They're going to be sitting there with Jesus. They're going to be chopping it up, having a good old time, and focused on their crowns. This is not for those people. This is for those people who are on the end of the spectrum of working out their salvation with fear and trembling, but not really, because Jesus made it pretty clear what you need to do. So you don't need to have fear and trembling. You just need to do what he said he commanded us to do, which, by the way, fits in with the other major religious, spiritual-ish sort of systems. Okay, you don't go wrong. Okay, but that's really for tomorrow and Sunday at G School. Our focus today is on the physical, mental, and emotional parts of life. That's what our focus is on today. Just thinking about last night's group. I'm just going to call it a group. Last night's group. I'm not going to call it Bible study. Not going to call it unified. Not going to call it iron sharpens iron or cotton softens cotton. Not going to call it any of those things. Just a group. And things evolve. Cool. All right. But who cares about that? Nobody on this who's going to be watching this cares about that. Let's focus on what we care about. Today's theme is the pursuit of happiness. This is from the Viktor Frankl perspective. So we're going to talk about that. Advice from an 80-year-old. Here's some good advice from an 80-year-old. Become the most positive, enthusiastic person you know. Become the most positive and enthusiastic person you know. What would be wrong with that? What would be wrong with that? I would say nothing would be wrong with becoming the most positive and enthusiastic person you know. What do you have to lose by doing that? Try that again. Yeah, what do you have to lose by becoming the most positive and enthusiastic person you know? Nothing. And in today's Jordan Peterson little short thing, I think it's the one we chose. Let's see, what does Jordan Peterson have to say today? Nope, we didn't choose that one. One that we didn't choose, but it's very good. And that is, oh, maybe it was, but you have to learn to get along with others. And he says, even a 4-year-old understands They won't play with the kid who always gets to pick the game. So the 4-year-old who has to have everything what they want, nobody else will play with them. Eventually, no one will play with them. 4-year-olds know that. So so that's right. So victimhood. So if you're going through the world in your skull-sized kingdom, believing your goal is to get everybody to do what you want, it won't work. It won't work. Even a 4-year-old understands or won't play with somebody who always picks the game. You have to trade off. Okay, your turn can't always be about me, even though our skull-sized kingdom tells us that it is. But when next week we get to week 3 outside my skull-sized kingdom, when we peer out, we're like a little prairie dog, we peer out of our skull-sized kingdoms here, there's other people out there. We find we need to work. If we want to be successful, we need to work with them. That is, of course, unless you're already saved. And then there's what's the point? If you're already saved, if I was already saved, here's an interesting thing. If I was already saved and I knew I was going to be for eternity in happiness, I would say, why do I want to continue being here? Well, you can't commit suicide. Okay, well, I'm going to just focus on doing heroic things. And one day I'll get lucky and I will shuffle this mortal coil and I'll be on to where I actually want to go. So it's sort of like Steve Jobs said, everybody wants to get to heaven, but nobody wants to die to get there. If I truly believed, this was kind of a litmus test of Christians back a couple thousand years, almost 2,000 years ago, is okay, if you're really a Christian, show up at the Colosseum on Sunday. If you're really a Christian, if you really believe in this whole Jesus, heaven, kingdom of, if you really believe that stuff, show up. And I would say one person who did was Ignatius of Antioch. He could have not showed up, but he said, no, I welcome it. I welcome it because I know where I'm going to be immediately thereafter. So what about all of the people who are already saying, I'm saved, I'm going to be with Jesus? Okay, well, why do you want to hang around here? Well, we're not supposed to kill ourselves. Cool. How about doing something heroic? How about putting yourself in a position to run into burning buildings or save little old ladies being mugged in dangerous areas of the town? Something heroic, so that maybe you will, as they had in Gladiator, go into battle. And if you find yourselves in the fields of Elysium, be happy because you're already dead. Yeah, okay. Next, so that's what we do during the week. Today's talk, once again, is Viktor Frankl. Our thing is the pursuit of happiness from a Viktor Frankl perspective. But before that, let's just look at Seth Godin. What's our time? Such a runic rhyme. I think we can do Seth Godin. First impressions and second chances. Compelling. Sounds good so far. The newcomer introduces themselves to the community. Hi, I'm Bob. The brand runs its first ad. The product's packaging is encountered by a new customer. You're in the store. Oh, packaging. What's this? You rarely get a second chance to make a first impression. Right. For software companies, that first impression is the user interface. And then it's the experience of actually engaging with the software. That's a huge opportunity and obligation and risk that software companies encounter. The product is the ad. LLMs, large language models, like Claude and ChatGPT, have grown faster than any other products in the history of the world. They have done this despite awkward brand names, unsophisticated interfaces, and plenty of glitches. Yet the experience is so remarkable that we can't help talking about it, even if we're not sure exactly what to say. As a result, like the 8 men in a dark room with an elephant, Our stories are all different. Whether you're a job seeker, a freelancer, or the head of marketing for a company with lots of funding, there are questions to answer before you make your first flyer, your resume, or your very expensive YouTube ad. What do we do? What do we intend to remind people of? What genre are we playing in? What problem do we solve? What problem does our existence cause for competitors, for users, for bystanders? What's our position in the marketplace? Is it one that we can stick with and with our competitors can't come near? Can we tell this story, run this ad, stand behind this program for years? Could our competitor run precisely the same ad? Are we saying something we can own? Who exactly is it for? Not just the brand, but this ad. Who are we trying to reach? What's the change we seek to make? When people tell their friends about us, what do we want them to say? Our cultural talk, blah, 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 blah. A lot of good stuff, not blah, blah, blah. A lot of good stuff. Some great brands have been built with ads or stories built on those questions. Maxwell House, the Mac, Marlboro, Prell, Betty Crocker, Avis, Volkswagen, The Gap, Burger King. It's not about having a slogan. It's about having a resilient story and a firm foundation to stand on. And then telling the story in a way that sticks, that spreads, and that resonates. My take is that the AI companies racing as fast as they can on the tech side have more money than vision when it comes to telling a coherent, sticky, and generative story. They're starting to spend the money, but they're not creating much of value. We don't have to be a giant business to benefit from a consistent and powerful position supported by a story. But that's a good place to start if you want to get there. Wow, that is a huge one. If you're working on ChatGPT, if you're doing stuff there, as am I, there's some really powerful questions in that. Cool. Okay, well, is anybody still out there? Righto, so that was a very good Seth Godin one. My apologies for the way I read it, because I was trying to understand as I read, not communicate as I read. But the good news is it's in the worksheet down below. Please subscribe, click on the bell, share. So today is a pretty good worksheet. And what time are we at? 13 minutes. Man's search for meaning. Okay, very powerful, important one. This is another person, meaning Viktor Frankl, who, like Baruch Spinoza, got it almost right. Almost got it right. There was only one ingredient they were missing, and that is they did not know of Jesus. Now I put the emphasis on the word of, because at last night's thing there was a lot of discussion about this concept of, do you know Jesus or do you know of Jesus? And in the real world of men and machines, it's impossible to actually know the historic Jesus. And the problem with knowing the historical Jesus, it's impossible to know the historical Jesus. And if you don't have any idea what first century Palestine was like, or a sense of history and the world he lived, you're going to come up with some very skewed ideas. Is it possible to know the historic Jesus? Well, the problem with that, the answer is I don't know. But the problem with that is everybody has a different Jesus. Some it's slightly different, but it's different. Others, it's radically different. So can we really know the historic Jesus? And since it's so vague, why even talk about it? This gets to be like a Wittgenstein type of thing. Things that cannot be pictured cannot be said, because saying them means nothing. So how do you picture having a relationship with Jesus? How do you picture that? Is it you're sitting in a together, walking together, you're doing something together, and you're just having a conversation? Is that how you picture having a relationship with him? You're bros, you can talk about anything, and then you come back to your frustrations of life and your health isn't good, and you say, yeah, but I'm happy. Don't think so. Don't think so. So Viktor Frankl's trying to tackle this problem, and he missed it by that much. Believe, because he didn't know of Jesus. Why? Because he was a Jew. And so, as for most Jews, he's not the Messiah, maybe a prophet, but certainly not the Messiah. Therefore, we are not going to worship him. We're not going to treat him as the Messiah. So I don't really need to invest a lot of time and energy into him. And if I do, it's really just to support my belief that he is not the Messiah. Okay, so I got to work my way through the problem, just like the old version where everything revolved around the earth. I got it 99% right. Missed it by that much, though, trying to figure out the celestial body's cosmology. Missed it by that much because I don't have the sun in the center of our solar system. I don't have the sun. I don't have the earth revolving around the sun. I have the sun revolving around the earth. And I've got it almost worked out mathematically to explain eclipses and things like that. It's just a couple pesky little problems, and it's really complex, and I'm just not smart enough to figure it out. It was the path they were on, and they got it almost right, a very hard, complex way. But at the end, when you reverse the earth and the sun, poof, everything makes sense. And that's kind of where we are with this Viktor Frankl and Baruch Spinoza. They got it almost right, but not quite, because they did not add Jesus as the creator incarnate into the equation. So Viktor Frankl says the purpose for life, or what we are innately programmed to do, is find meaning. We're doing it wrong. We're trying to ask, what is the meaning of life? And for Viktor Frankl, his answer is basically, we've got it backwards. We don't look for the meaning of life. We give meaning to our life. Life asks us, what is the meaning of your life? And we have to be prepared that at any moment, it's the monument of our existence. And today's thing was having to do with the pursuit of happiness. How do you pursue happiness? And the answer is, you don't. Happiness is not a thing to be found. It's a thing to be cultivated. You have to cultivate it. So the narrator says, it's not like it's somewhere, happiness is somewhere in your house and you just have to find it. No, you have to cultivate it. And he gives examples of how to cultivate it. And it's to be, one thing is to be, if you can't be happy with what you have, there's nothing outside of you that can make you happy. And he talks about when he was a kid, he would collect bottles to get stale cookies that had a couple raisins in them, maybe, and he'd be so happy when he got enough bottles to have the cookie. And when he's eating the cookie, he'd be so happy. And he compares that to today, of having $100 steak in a restaurant. He ordered medium well, and it looks like it's medium, and now my night is ruined. And he makes the point, if you can't be happy with a stale cookie, you're not going to be happy with a steak. If you can't be happy riding on the bus, you're not going to be happy in a Ferrari. So how do you do that? How do you do that? You have to cultivate that. You have to cultivate the ability to be happy wherever you are. Okay, and so we're almost out of time. Such a runic rhyme. I don't know why I always say that. Edgar Allan Poe. I guess that's why. Okay, so let's go make something happen. Let's endeavor to say, to say, what is our incantation? Oops. To say, bum 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 bum. Yeah, here's what we want to say. I know we're over time. Something great is going to happen to me today. Something great is going to happen to me today. And believe it. Actually believe it. Cultivate happiness. Something great is going to happen to me today. And with that, we're going to say, and cut, bump, bing, bonk.